Hello, my name is Michael Riley. I've been shipping parts for parts that I manufacture for refrigeration, refrigerators, freezers, that kind of thing. And I do service and repair, and I've been doing it for over 40 years on all major brands of major appliances, and I specialize in refrigeration. I have a training school, trains techs, have it about almost 20 years. And the last about 15 years, almost 15 years, I've been manufacturing refrigeration products, kind of getting to the point where if I got to a point one day that I was, not going to be doing service anymore, then I still had a business. So I thought about that way ahead of time, and I ship these parts basically worldwide, get orders, and I also do technical repair and technical assistance through Zoom, and sometimes even on the phone, to help not only customers that want to fix things themselves, give it a try, and but as well as service companies and service techs. I have quite often that have issues and are interested in, they can't figure it out, and they'll see my videos and stuff, and know that I'm there offering to help if they might have an issue. The thing about it is that I always get to a resolution. It's something that there's always a way to fix it. It's just that when it gets difficult, sometimes techs will kind of give up. They don't know. Now, when you get really, really proficient at something, it's kind of like when I was growing up. Somebody would say, "Yeah, you get a good car mechanic. He can just listen to the car and he knows what's wrong with it." It's that kind of thing. If he's a good tech, he's going to verify that. That's the thing about it. You just don't go throwing parts at it. And a lot of technicians, because they're not that experienced, when they run into something that's just difficult, they start throwing parts at it. And when it comes to that being a customer's appliance, you can't do that. I mean, you can, but you're never going to go back. And they're going to tell all their friends, stay away, because you're going to be charging them for all those extra parts you didn't need. And honest tech wouldn't do that, but there's too many not so honest techs. And they never want to admit when they're wrong. One thing, I have a training school for techs, and I've had about 20 years. One thing I tell them is that, look, we're all human beings, and if you lie to a customer, they know you're lying. Very, very good chance they know you're lying. They get that gut feeling that this doesn't sound right, that you're BSing them, and that really upsets them. If you misdiagnose or something, I've misdiagnosed. Everybody's going to do it, and right there is the thing. If I was somebody like you, like a lot of techs, I'd say, "Oh no, I'm always right. I always get it. I diagnose it, and I get it right the first time." That's BS. See, right there, you're lying, and everybody knows that, because it's just not reality. It's arrogance. You're going to make mistakes sometimes. You're just going to have a bad day. You're going to whatever it is. And the really important thing with the customer that will get them through it, they get bothered that it's taking longer. You got to come back. They get bothered, but the bottom line is they want it fixed, and they want to not see you anymore after that. They know that it's going to last a while, and they paid a good amount of money, and they want it to last. So, the most important thing in a case where you just get it wrong, you misdiagnosed it, and don't be afraid to admit you misdiagnosed it. Just tell a customer, you know what, It's a tough problem. And you can explain to them, but just tell them the truth. You know, I misdiagnosed it. What I'm going to do, and this is what I do. I'll just give you a hint. So that you really aren't going to end up eating the parts, all of them. Okay? Now I know that's the concern, but there's a way around that, and saving face and being honest at the same time, and in the end, keeping the customer. The customer is going to be your advertisement, free advertisement. And if it's a good customer, because they see that you were honest with them, you made a mistake, but we're all human. They look past that. They'll forget about that until you lie to them. They'll never forget that. So be honest with them. Just say, look, I missed it. I apologize. And just apologize to them. They love that. They may still look like they're upset or something because they really want it fixed and it's inconvenient, but they're appreciative of that. They really are. And this is one of the biggest problems with techs, is not admitting. In selling parts, selling especially refrigeration parts, I manufacture evaporators and stuff that you put in a torch to. And when you get a tech that isn't that experienced, and he's using a torch, and I'm not going to go off on this tangent because I can go there and be there for a couple hours. I'm just going to touch on it. Most techs are using the wrong torch. They're learning on YouTube and stuff, and everybody's using oxyacetylene because it's like Tim Taylor in Tool Time. It's supercharged. It's hotter than it's 3,000 to 6,000 degrees, and it's not the right torch. It's, good Lord, it's almost 2,000 to 4,000 degrees hotter than it should be. And it's forcing you to... I got guys now, in the last probably 7 or 8 or even 10 years, unlike ever before, using the wrong torches, they're flowing nitrogen. Guys, appliance repair technicians, stop. Wake up. You're doing the wrong things. You learned the wrong thing. We're not in refrigeration. That's a key word. That means like commercial. That word, refrigeration, does not stand for home appliances. It doesn't. It doesn't. That word is not used. Okay, refrigeration, that word is used for commercial and like restaurants and that kind of refrigeration. Okay? Our appliances are called sealed systems. The refrigeration. They're called refrigerators and freezers. They're called sealed systems. Okay, that's a term that we use for domestic refrigerators and freezers and ice makers and whatever. Okay? So sealed system, and that word means it's truly sealed. That's why it's not used on the other ones, because they have mechanical fittings, and those aren't truly sealed. Truly sealed means it's soldered, brazed together. Soldered, we use that word just loosely, but soldered usually is when you're soldering computer boards or whatever, or plumbing. It's a lower temperature. Brazing is up 1,400, 1,700, whatever. And you're using silver solder. And it gets mixed up because they're using silver solder. You can call it a brazing rod if you want. But the point is, you're using too hot of a torch. And because of that, you're causing carbon buildup inside the tubing, inside the system. So you're flowing nitrogen to get that out as you're brazing with the wrong torch. I have never, and anybody that's ever used a proper torch, we don't need to flow nitrogen, ever. Because you're not going to build up carbon at the proper temperature, which is like 1,400 to 1,700 degrees. And you don't stay on it. The reason that you're using a lower temperature torch, a couple reasons. One is the tubing is so small. Here's one example of how small the tubing is. That's a capillary tube. Look how small that is. You're going to use oxyacetylene on this? You're going to melt it. Yeah. That's not the right torch. 3,000 to 6,000 degrees on this tiny tubing, capillary tube. That's the other thing is that sealed systems have. Capillary tube. They don't have metering devices. This is the metering device. That hole is .031. It's metered and it's not adjustable. That's the exact metered amount of freon that needs to go in there, into the suction line of the evaporator, the inlet, which is 5/16. Huge tube compared to that. So when it drops in pressure, it drops in temperature, and that's where you get 0 degrees. So there's no metering devices. But that's the critical thing. And also, here's another thing that I'm just going to throw it in there. The guys, when they evacuate these systems, sealed systems, you don't need to worry about pulling it down to 200, 400 microns. You don't need to worry about that. Okay? You pull it into a vacuum, 20, 30 minutes. They're really small systems. It's not like an HVAC where you got tubing running through the whole walls of the whole house. Or part of the house from the condensing unit to the evaporator, a coil. You don't have that. Long runs of tubing. Those are large volume systems. That's why the charge is so high. You're getting into pounds of charge because you got to fill the whole system up. We're dealing with 4 ounces, 7 ounces, 10 ounces at the most, probably. There's just extremely small systems. The cabinet of the refrigerator, tubing goes up from the freezer and the refrigerator, that's it. The compressor, that's it. There's no volume there. Thus, the small amount of volume of refrigerant and small volume of the tubing and the size of the system. So, if you use the proper torch, and I haven't said it yet, what the name of it is, it's 1,400 to 1,700 degrees. The key there also is the melting point of the silver solder. If you're using and flux incinerates it above 1,700 degrees. It incinerates it. It's no good. And when it incinerates it into garbage, it becomes dirty. And now you just made your joint dirty by too hot of a torch. That's one thing. And you'll sit there and try to get it to, if you ever just keep on it longer and try to put more solder, and it's because you got it dirty and it's too freaking hot. Wake up. You've learned online on YouTube and other places, and from other people that just don't, and from HVAC schools. We are not HVAC. And HVAC schools, stop. Let me put it this way. I'm going to put it that way first. Stop telling all techs that they need to use oxyacetylene. Sealed systems do not use oxyacetylene. Refrigerators, domestic refrigerators and freezers and home units of refrigeration units. We don't use oxyacetylene. The other reason, besides the temperature and causing carbon, that you don't want to do, with the right torch, you're going to not create carbon because it's much lower temperature. But the other reason is the tubing size that I alluded to. Our tubing is a 1/4 inch capillary. This is .083. .083, the outside diameter. .031 inside the hole. This isn't even it's not even even a 1/16 of an inch. What are you going to use 6,000 degrees of cutting torch for? It's just insane. 1/4 inch capillary, 5/16, usually not even 3/8. Most systems don't have 3/8 tubing, domestic sealed systems. 5/16 is usually the highest size of tubing, and it's usually the evaporator. Okay, so you use a torch that is matched with the temperature of the melting temperature of not only the flux, but the silver solder. And Silphos 15 is the proper solder to use. And the melting temperature is the same on that. It's about between 1500, 1700 degrees. Depends on which solder you have. But it's very lower temperature. It's not low temperature, because that's like 400 to 900. Okay? And guys are starting to use that, and that's the wrong thing to use. Because they don't want to get the right torch. It's laziness. It's about getting the wrong tools to do the job. You guys got to have the right tools, and the job becomes very much easier. Plus, it becomes less expensive and less burdensome dragging all this equipment in. Dragging in an oxyacetylene setup, the cart and everything. What are you doing that for into a home? You don't do that. That's insane. You don't need oxygen. Oxygen is for a cutting torch. Now, on HVACs, the tubing is 3/8 and up. Could be 5/8, 7/8. I mean, it's big tubing, some of it. That's why you need oxyacetylene, because you're not going to get it to temperature. Now, I'll beg to differ on that, because I never used oxyacetylene when I did HVAC. It was a little bit difficult at times to get it, the tubing hot enough, but the right tip is what it's all about in the torch that's proper. The proper torch is just acetylene. That's it. Acetylene. It's called air, not oxygen, air. The air it sucks in from the room. Air acetylene. Okay? And it works with the turbo torch tip. The turbo torch tip injects air into the tip, the handle, it's actually into the tip itself. It's built into the tip where the holes are. It sucks it in and it creates a swirling effect in the tip. An A8, Apple 8, is the right tip to use for what we deal with, our size tubing. And it's a acetylene tank, and I get the small tank. It's probably about, you see this, it's probably about 15 inches tall or 16 inches tall. I put it underneath my arm. Wrap the hose around it and around the regulator at the top of the tank, and it's called an MC tank. And that thing lasts about a year. No oxygen, because you're running out of oxygen all the time. Dragging it into the house, popping, and you all know what I'm talking about. Soot going up to the ceiling. Customer sees it. You're going to have to get up there, and if that's a tall ceiling, how are you going to get up there and wipe that black soot off? It's the wrong torch. That's meant for a garage, working on a car, cutting steel, or outside working on an HVAC unit. Wrong torch, guys. In HVAC schools, stop. Instead of me saying stop, I was going to stop myself saying that before. But tell these techs, if you're working on HVAC, oxyacetylene. But if you're working on, because you never know if they're lying to you or you don't know why they're there. They just want to learn how to do the systems. But if they're working on domestic refrigerators and freezers and that kind of stuff in the house, totally different systems, smaller tubing, they do not use oxyacetylene. Please share this with them and tell them it's air acetylene with the turbo torch tip. Turbo torch handle and tip, and it's a kit. It comes with a regulator and the handle and tip and the hose. About $200, and it's a lot cheaper. Plus, the temperature's right. The temperature is right, so that several techs that I've turned on to this and got them to use the right torch, after they use it, go, wow, what a difference. Plus, you're going to save a lot of time on the job. You know what a pain in the butt is if you're flowing nitrogen and dragging in an oxyacetylene setup. That's ridiculous. You're adding about 2+ hours onto your job. You don't need to do that, because you're causing the problem that you have to clean up. Too hot of a torch, causing carbon. Then you got to clean up, you got to flow nitrogen. So then you got another tank of nitrogen. I have never, in 40+ years bought a cylinder of nitrogen. I've never used it. Don't need it. Don't need it. You don't create a mess inside the system with carbon or otherwise because you have way too hot of a torch. You don't have to clean it up. I mean, really? I can't believe that this is, in the last several years, that everybody has no idea of the right thing to do anymore. And I have to attribute it to online and like YouTube videos and stuff where people are learning. I have YouTube videos. I'm not saying they're all bad, but you have to look at the context. Brazing is not just brazing. It's different with different applications. And the biggest thing is the size of the tubing. Use the right torch for the job. Smaller tubing is air settling. Just acetylene, no oxygen. HVAC, you got to use oxyacetylene a lot of times because the tubing is so big, 5/8, 7/8. You know, it's big tubing, big copper tubing. It's hard to get that hot enough for the solder. But at about 14 to 1700 degrees, that solder flows, and it doesn't incinerate the flux. And if you clean it up real good with emery cloth, don't use a wire brush, guys. If you're using a wire brush, that's stupid. You're going to leave dirty between the wire bristles. It's going to be dirty. So when you go and try to flow this solder, it's not going to stick, and you're going to keep on there, try to put more solder. If you ever do that and just think about staying it on it too long because you can't get it sealed, stop. Stop. Don't keep heating it up. The reason is because it's dirty. You're not going to get it to stick. And you're going to end up with a leak, a really tiny leak in the end. Just stop. You either got to pull it apart and re-emery cloth it and clean it real good. You don't have to take all the solder off. Just emery cloth real good. And if it's a small tubing or something, you want to cut off the end, that's fine. Start over, that's even better because you can clean it. And it's easier to get back together because if solder's in the way, so you know how it is getting it back together. Sometimes the solder won't let you push it in all the way or even push it in at all. Or you can heat it up as you insert it. But sometimes it's a little hard unless this one's stationary. If you have to hold the two tubes, you're not going to be able to do it. You don't have three hands. Okay? But the point is that it's the right torch for the job is what the deal is. Plus, it saves you hours on the job. You're not putting soot on the ceiling. You're not popping. You're not scratching the floor with your cart. There's no reason to drag that thing in there. That's just stupid. It means you're uneducated in how to do a proper job with the sealed systems. And that's what I'm trying to do is educate you a little bit. I'm not putting you down, but you're learning from the wrong places. And that's the problem anymore, is that too many younger guys doing, and it's not about youngness, it's just less experienced. I don't know what word you use. It doesn't matter. You understand what I mean. Are getting the information from the wrong places, and they're getting the wrong information. You're going out there buying, same thing with the 200, 400 microns. You're buying these gauges that are $400, $600, $800 gauges. You don't need that. Just get the gauges with the handles on it, the manual gauges. You don't need an electronic gauges for sealed systems. The only reason you need those gauges is when you start getting into metered systems. We don't worry about pulling down into 400 microns. We don't have metered devices in there, in our systems. The capillary is it's a stationary meter. It doesn't change. Static metering. And it's not critical like HVAC and others are. They're very, very critical. And that's also why you need all the other functions of the digital gauges. Everything that, the superheat, all those extra things we don't worry about. We don't worry about saturation. We don't worry about We don't worry about any of that. That's HVAC, guys. It's not sealed system refrigerators, domestic refrigerators and freezers. Okay, there's a big world of difference between the two. A huge world of difference. So get the right tools. If you're not sure, ask somebody that knows. But just don't assume all refrigeration is refrigeration. It's not. Not when it comes to service. Okay? So I actually started this video for another purpose, but I got on this subject, so I'm just going to use this video for this subject. I'm having to, for the last couple of years, I've had to travel all over the country, United States, to fix screw-ups caused by techs. Never in my whole 40-plus years. I mean, I was a trainer, so I was traveling city to city from different service centers. So, but that was different. Now I got customers contacting me, see my videos and going, help. I had a guy here, he destroyed my refrigerator. He melted the evaporator, the new one he put in, and he just destroyed my Sub-Zero. And I'm looking at buying an 18,000 plus unit. Can you help me, please? Yes, I can. And they're paying me, which is boggles my mind, because the other side of it is they're going to have to spend 20, 25, 30, who knows how much the cabinets are, because they're not the same size, the new units, to remodel the cabinets. And they might get into part of it and then just have to remodel the whole kitchen. Now they're at 35, 50,000 because the guy screwed up their refrigerator. And this is just terrible what I'm seeing. I mean, and putting mechanical fittings on, they're sealed systems. They braze together. You don't put compression fittings on. You don't put these new compressed, there's different names for them, so I'm not going to name all of them. But you know what I'm talking about. The compression press-on fittings. If you look on the websites of the manufacturers of those, they clearly state in really small writing in the engineering data that they leak. They do leak. And they for legal reasons, they put them in their data, engineering data. But nobody reads that. And it's not in big print or they'd never sell the damn things. But they leak. Very, very, very small leaks. But it's a leak. It's not a sealed system. One was the guy that put those on. It was like leaking like a sieve. And I had to go out there. I mean, it's insane. It was in Ohio or Denver. Well, there was one in Flagstaff, too. I've been all over the country. These customers contacting me. It's insane what these techs are doing out here. They can't find anybody who knows what they're doing or will repair it for them. I mean, what's wrong with you guys out here? If you don't know the answers, ask. I know that a lot of times older guys, it's always been that way, that they kind of keep to themselves. But if you ask them, a lot of them are willing to help you out. But we have two generations now that learned from South Park that the older generations are ones to just abuse and that they don't know anything and that you know better than everybody else has ever been alive knew. Well, sorry, that's not the case. And I'm tired of traveling all over the country. I haven't been overseas yet. I'm surprised I haven't gone to London or something because they can't find a tech. I mean, you guys are just the worst it's ever been. And I'm not talking about all techs. Those guys are good. They know what I'm talking about. And they're not the braggers either. The ones that are good. They just keep to themselves, do their job, and treat the customer right, and they get all the jobs. Because the customer talks great about them to other people. It's the ones that bragging all the time, they know it all, and they're doing everything wrong. Yeah, I'm chastising you guys, because you're making a bad name for our industry. The worst that it's ever been, these two generations, millennials and Zs. What is wrong with you guys? And then, like I say again, it's not all of you. I've had some real good younger guys that actually ask me questions. Those are the guys that I know that want to learn right. They're like, hey, do you mind? I have a question. And they're not afraid to admit they don't know something. That's the only way you learn the right way. And those are the guys I don't mind helping. It's the ones that are, oh, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I bet. You don't need to tell me. I know. I won't even talk to them again after that. Because if they're like that, they don't know what they're doing. But it's that boasting, that arrogance that nobody needs to tell me. I don't want anything to do with. I can make mistakes personally. I'll admit it to another tech. That's how you learn. But it's also how you want to treat the customer, is that you're not perfect. And that's what I started this with. Just be honest with the customer. If you fess up to them that, you know, my torch was too hot and I ended up leaving a leak, but we'll get it corrected and you'll be all good. You know, but you got to be using the right torch too. So you try to fix that with the wrong torch, actually settling, you're just going to make it worse or melt the tubing. So you can't learn all of this on YouTube. Not the proper way, because it's like looking for the proper repair on YouTube. You're never going to find your exact model. And there's differences between models, and everybody knows that's experienced knows that. You really need, brazing is not brazing. It's different with different application. I hope this is helpful. This is not what I started to write the video to do the video about, but this is such an important point that and problem that I needed to talk more about it. I'll never talk enough about it, especially lately. I'm just hoping some younger guys and less experienced will wake up and heed to especially the torch. That's a critical thing that you guys are doing way wrong, is using that supercharged, hotter tune. The hotter the better. No, it's not. It's the worse. So get away from the oxyacetylene, unless you're doing HVAC, the big tubing, 5/8, 7/8, half-inch, 3/4, whatever, inch. You know, your smaller tubing on domestic is air acetylene, just an acetylene tank. That's it. The turbo torch setup. Okay? And like I say, I carry it under my arm. The whole setup under my arm. Because the tank's only this big. It goes under my arm with the thing wrapped, the hose wrapped around in the tip. All there in one. And I got the toolbox in my same hand. And then if I have something else in my left hand. I carry everything at once. Oh, the vacuum pump in my left hand. You know, I don't need all that. 4 trips, 5 trips, in and out, scratching the floor. Anyways, you get the gist of it. There's a proper way of doing things. Ask the older guys that are out there if you don't know. They'll share the right advice with you. They might give you a hard time about it, but that's part of it, busting your balls. You know, that's how you learn. We've all had that done to us. That's just part of being a new guy. But they're helping you because they want you to do a good job. So, and that's part of the camaraderie, is giving you a hard time. Don't go run to your safe space like too many do these days. We're going to do that. We had it done to us. Okay? We'll help you out, but you got to ask. South Park kind of attitude where older, you just treat them like garbage, and that's the way you treat the older people because they don't know anything. They were doing everything wrong for 150 years, 200 years. We'll show them because we know how to do it the right way. No, that's not going to work. In life, it ain't going to work. And they're seeing too much of that. I'm seeing progressive insurance commercials that are suggesting that. Every commercial is about, yeah, well, that's what your parents did, and they were wrong. I mean, I still have to get a hold of them and contact them and say, this is ridiculous. What you're being abusive towards older people that and parents and stuff, well, why are you doing that? They're just perpetuating the Southport garbage of just abuse your elders. Where is this? I mean, this is ridiculous. That's how you learn, is to talk to people that have been around and done it before. That's the best way to learn. Not put them down. It's like when here 10 years ago, oh, it's all about rap. Yeah, the 80s sucked. Well, now everything's about the 80s, because the 80s didn't suck. But that's the attitude of the newer, younger generations. And I mean, there's such a love for, the music was great. All the genres, all the bands are coming back. And everybody's falling, realizing it was really great music. We're not trying to brag on our generation or anything. It's just a fact. It's great music. I mean, most people would admit that. I hear it all the time now. You know, all the major bands have come back. They're in their 70s and 80s. But there's a demand. And all that rap crap has gone to the wayside. They started putting it on commercials. That's gone now. It's gone. They don't want anything to do with it. The advertisers and stuff. No. Yeah, it's just garbage. Kill your mother, kill your daughter, I mean, just ridiculous garbage. And it's not singing. It's just talking. What talent is there to that? Anyway, that's a whole other subject too. I got a lot of opinions. Yeah, I do. Anyway, so the proper way, if you have any questions, just ask. And you can contact me as well. My information's always in there. Best way is always to email me. Calling me is not, I'm too busy. I just don't. Plus with Google calling 400 million times a day with different phone numbers on the caller, yeah, they got people's names coming up and all that. Everybody knows that anymore. I don't answer the phone. It's just ridiculous. They need to be sued. So, all right. So, it's a big deal of doing things right. And it makes the job a lot easier and quicker and less trouble. And you don't have to clean out the mess you caused with the wrong torch. Okay? All right. If you have any questions, let me know. All right. Take care. Michael Riley. Thanks. Bye.